Okay, so we're on with round one of the mushroom square, and I'm starting in the cherry yarn. You can either make a chain of 4 which you slip stitch to join a circle, or you can make the magic loop, which I prefer. So for that I pinch it between my finger and thumb and then wrap it all the way around my other fingers. Okay, and then we are doing a chain of 3. So I've got my initial loop there, and then I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and that is going to count as a treble. So now I'm doing 5 trebles into this ring, and then I'm going to change yarn colours when I get towards the end of the 5th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Getting a bit ahead of myself there. Let's go back to there. So chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th one. We're then changing to yarn H at the end of this, and that is the line 1. So we pull that through the final 2 loops, then still working within this one, this ring, we're doing 2 trebles. Oops. There's not a lot of threads going on at the moment. Now we'll explain something else in a minute, but we'll start with these. So 1, 2 trebles there, and then we're changing to the ecru, and we're going to do, we've pulled that through, we're now going to work 4 trebles into the magic ring. So this all, oops, it's quite awkward is the first one because you haven't got the fabric to sort of hold you firm with it, but it does work. Just take it slowly and be quite methodical with it. So we're doing 4 trebles. That's 2, 3, 4, and we're then going back to the line for that final pull through on that one, and then we're doing 2 in the line, changing back to the red, the final pull through on that one, and then we are working, how many? So we've gone back to the cherry, right, we're pulling that nice and tight, and we're going to slip stitch into that top of that chain 3, trying to get through a double there, that's better, pull that through, slip stitch to join, and we've pulled the red tail which tightens up the middle. Now we've got very specific instructions that says we're going to start crocheting around the different colours of yarn. We're going to bring those tails along with us, or the working yarn end along with us, for the next few rows. So just bear that in mind. I'll work through these very slowly because it can look a little bit complicated and messy at the time, but it does actually work, and we end up with a lovely neat thing at the end of it. So that's round 1, and we'll join you again in a moment with round 2. Right. Round 2 is quite complicated, so I've split this down into smaller chunks. So I'm going to start with a chain of 3 and then 1 treble into the base of that chain of 3. So that's your first stitch, and then 1 treble into the next stitch. So we've got a chain of 3 and a treble right together, and then most of a treble worked there, and then we are changing to our cream, and this is where we need to make sure that we're carrying the threads properly hidden behind the others. So I'm just going to pull that through, and then we're going to be working a popcorn, front popcorn, into this, and I need to make sure that both the red and the green thread here are held behind. So I'm going to start my treble in there and get that first lot tucked in. So they're tucked in there behind so that they're not flapping around. Don't forget these other threads will be there, they just will get sewn in later. So for a popcorn we are doing 4 trebles all into the same place, and making sure that we're working round the red and green yarn as we go. We need to carry them both across. As we get to that end of that 4th popcorn, you then need to decide which yarn it is you need to pick up next. In this case we're picking up the red, and I'm bringing that through. So we've done the 4 white trebles, we've pulled the red through, and then because it's a front popcorn we go from front to back, grab the red yarn or the red loop and bring that back through, and that's your first of your popcorn. And then oops, I pulled it through with the I've pulled it through with the tail. That's not good, is it? I did say this is quite a complex one to do. So I should have, I'll just take that last, no, I'll pause it. Okay, so working with our red yarn, we're going to work 2 trebles into each of the next 2 stitches. So again, we're carrying this yarn across, and I'm going to try and have the green, I think, nearer the front. 1, 2, and another 1, 2, and we're changing back to cream because we're going to do another popcorn stitch. So that's changed us back, and we're going to do another right side popcorn into the next stitch, remembering that you're working around the yarns that are being carried across the back. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are changing back to the cherry at that point. In from the front, grab that loop and bring it back through. So we've got our second one worked, and I'm just going to pause there for a moment and then we'll come back with the next bit of this. Okay, there's an awful lot going on in this next round, so we'll start simply. We've got a chain of 3 and then we're doing a treble into the same stitch, and we now need to start bringing the other colours with us. So I'm going to work another treble, one into the next stitch, but I'm also going to have to work over those because we're bringing them along as we go. So you can see at the back how they've started to get caught in. And as we get to the end of this one, we're going to change to the cream yarn, and we're working a front popcorn. So we're also working it into the same stitch, so that's one just to note. So keeping the red and the green tucked in, I now need to work 4 trebles. And as I get to the end of the 4th one, I've got to remember to swap back to my red yarn, and then front to back, grab that, pull it through. Okay, then I'm going to work 2 trebles into the next stitch, and then another 2 trebles into the following stitch, making sure that you're bringing the yarn along with you across the back. Then on the final pull through, we're going to the cream yarn, and then again tucking the other 2 colours in at the back, so you can see there's a lot going on here. I'm doing another front popcorn, so that's my 4 trebles, changing back to the red yarn on the final one. You then go in front to back, grab your loop, pull that through. Then we're working another treble into the same hole as the popcorn, into the same stitch. And then finally we do 2 more trebles into the final stitch, and this time I'm changing to my green yarn. So that's the top part of that done. Okay, we'll start to work the second bit in just a moment. Okay, so to do the bottom of this section, we're doing 2 trebles into each of the next 2 stitches. Don't forget you're carrying that yarn along with you. That's one set done. And the next set, and as I get to the end of this one, I'm changing back to my cream yarn. There we go, so 2 sets of 2 trebles, and then we're working 4 individual trebles in the cream. So again, we're carrying that spare yarns along the back. 1, just going to try and tuck that slightly differently. I want that red to be hiding behind the green. I think the green seems less intrusive. 2, 3, 4, and as we get to the end there, I'm finishing off that final pull through with the green, and then we're going to work 2 trebles into each of the next 2 stitches, so that we've got that nice symmetry going on. And at the end of the final stitch, I'm going back to the cherry yarn, and then we're doing a slip stitch. Oops, fighting with me. There we go, slip stitch to join the round. So that's how the front will look, and the back, you can see you're pulling all these things along with you, so they're the other tails. I might just sew them off in a moment. You've got all your extra tails there for them, our working yarns. Okay, we'll be back in a moment with the next round. Okay, so round 3, we start with a chain of 3 and 1 treble into that base, and again we've got to remember to carry the other working yarns across the back. So I've just tucked them in behind. Then we do an individual treble into the next stitch, and then continuing to carry these around, we're doing 2 stitches into the next stitch, 1 treble into the stitch after that, then another 2 trebles into the next stitch, and 1 treble into the stitch after that. So it's all 2s and 1s going across basically, and then because we're coming up to a popcorn, we change to the cream. So I can now take a little reminder out there, and we're going to work 4 trebles. Got my tension quite set up there. Let's get the tension right. 1, 2, 3, and that's the 4th one, remembering we need to swap back to the red. And we go through from front to back, grab that loop, bring that back through, and then we're going to work 1 treble into the same stitch that the popcorn's in. Okay, then we do 1 treble on its own, remembering to pick up those at the back, so you've got to keep them moving across. Then we have got 2 trebles, get that tension going properly again, 2 trebles into the top of the cream stitch, which is the popcorn of the row below, 1 treble into the next stitch, 2 into that, 1 into that final stitch, remembering to change to the green yarn. On that end of that final treble. Then we start with the combination of 2s and 1s again. So 2 trebles into the next stitch, 1 to the following one, then again 2 into the next stitch, 1 to the following, and as we get to that point, grab the red, not the red, sorry, we grab the cream. What am I doing? Okay, we've changed to the cream yarn to go across the mushroom stalk, and again we do 2s and 1s, and as I get to the end there, through with the green yarn, and then we work 2 trebles in the green, remembering to keep your yarn pulling across the back hidden inside, and green in the next, then again 2 in the next one, and final individual treble there, changing back to the lovely red yarn at the end and doing a slip stitch to bring that round together. So your combinations going all the way round are 2 1 2 1 2. This one counts as part of the 2 because you've got that and an individual one in that stitch all the way around to the beginning, and we'll pick up the next round in just a moment. Okay, so as before, we're going to do a chain of 3 and a treble, picking up our other colours, and we're working it into the same place as the chain of 3, and then we're going to work 1 treble, making sure we carry the yarn across with us, and as we get to the end of that first treble we're changing to the cream yarn to work our first popcorn stitch of this row. I can now remove that because this next stitch is where my popcorn's going to be. So a right side popcorn, so I've got 4 trebles, and at the end of the 4th one change back to the red yarn, and complete that by going front to back, grabbing that thread, bringing it back through, and then we're going to work 2 trebles into the next stitch, not forgetting to keep those other threads coming along with us at the back. Just need to pull that a little bit tighter. There we go. So that's 2 trebles into the next stitch, and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 2 individuals. And at the end of the second one, we're changing back to cream, ready to do the next popcorn in that next stitch. So again, remembering to tuck the other colours in behind. One, 2, 3, 4, and as we get to the 4th, grab our red yarn, bring that through, and then front to back as before, bring the red yarn through, and then we're going to have 1 treble into the same stitch as the popcorn, and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, again remembering to carry the other yarns across with us, and then 2 trebles into the next stitch, which for me is the cream one. And then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, changing to the cream again, and we're at our next popcorn. Oops. So just get my tension right there. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, changing back to the red and completing the popcorn by bringing that through. Oops, lost it then. Bringing that through, and again we've got 1 stitch, another treble, a UK treble, into the same stitch as the popcorn, and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches. I'm going to work our final popcorn, so I'm changing back to the cream. I can remove my marker, and then making sure that I'm catching all those extra threads. I think that's the bit that most people will suddenly find they've left some threads behind. But just take your time. 1, 2, 3, 4, finding our red, getting that final popcorn. And one more treble in red into the same stitch as the popcorn, and then 2 individual trebles, one into each of the next 2 stitches. And this time we're changing to, finally, the lime yarn at the end of this stitch, ready to work the next segment. So you'll have created 4 more popcorns on that bit, and then we'll get on to working the base. Okay, so we can now leave the red yarn behind and just work with the green. So we need to keep the cream coming along with us, so that's continuing to be crocheted into the back. So we're going to work 2 trebles into one hole, and then 2 individual trebles, keeping the cream coming with us across the back. So it's a combination of 2 into one hole, and then individuals, so 1 into one, 1 into the second. Now as we get to this point, we need to change to our cream yarn, and we need to be just keeping the green coming along with us. So again, same combination, we've got 2 trebles into one stitch, and then 2 individual trebles, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches, and the same combination again, 2 stitches into one, and 1 into each of the next 2, not forgetting now to change back to the green yarn. And we can now leave the cream yarn behind. We don't need to carry that across at the moment, it will be rejoined later on. Then we're back to the same combination where we're working 2 trebles into one stitch. Oops. Might pay at that moment just to untangle the yarn a bit, it does get a little bit wound up as you're doing all this carrying around and changing. So we now have 2 individual trebles, and then 2 into the next stitch, and the final 2 individual ones. Still trying to come with me. Into those final 2 stitches, and then slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. So this is where you are at that point. These are all combinations of 2 stitches into one, and then 2 individual stitches all the way across. And then unusually we're actually going to turn the work for the next round. So we'll then be working across the back of the work, which is partly why we didn't need to carry the threads with us. Okay, so join you again in a minute with the next round. Okay, after what have been some quite intense rounds, it's going to be quite nice to do something a little more simple. So, bearing in mind that we're working across the back of the work now, not the front, we still at certain points need to carry some yarn across. So I'm starting off with a chain of 1, and then we need to do a UK double crochet. So in, grab your yarn, bring it back through, round and through both stitches, and we're going to work 8 of those in the lovely green yarn. So we're basically matching the yarn colour to each stitch. So I've got 8 in this lovely lime green, and as I get to the end of the 8th stitch I need to bring the cream back into play. So, actually I'm just going to show you something slightly different there. Because this is the back of the work, I don't want this green, I need to carry it across as we've been doing, but I want this at the side that I'm working because this will be the back of the work. So rather than carrying it across that side, which would look awful, I'm going to carry it across the back. So make sure that your thread for your green yarn is, your working thread is at this side nearest to you, and then pull the cream through and just set my hand to get the tension right. So we're carrying the green across but in front of us. So let's find, we need to do 8 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will be number 8. So a little bit tricky on the first one to keep the green tucked in. Okay, so here we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and as we get to our 8th one, again we'll bring this cream yarn to this side and we swap to our green yarn. Now we don't need to carry the cream yarn across, this is going to get fastened off and finished with, and then we need to do 8 stitches into the green ones, but much easier because we're not trying to keep hold of any other threads at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this time I'm just going to bring that to the back to neaten it out of the way, and we're changing to the red, and then we don't need to carry the green thread across. We're going to actually work 24 red stitches. Bear in mind you need to work into the white as well, so I won't make you watch me do another 24 double crochet. So we're going to work our way across all the stitches, including a stitch into each of the white ones, all the way across. That should be 24. Just check your numbers at the end and then slip stitch to join, and I'll come back in a moment and show you the completed round. Okay. So we're at the end, fastening off the red yarn and the cream. Now I'm just leaving the green one still attached, so I'm just going to spend a moment sewing these 2 ends in so that they're nice and neat and out of the way, and then we'll come back with the next round. Okay, back with round 6. So the green yarn, which was still attached, and we're now working into the front of this, and we're going to do, so you bring it through on the first green stitch and do a chain of 3, and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, and 2 trebles into the next stitch, and then we're going to keep going with 3 individual trebles, 1 into each of the next 3 stitches, like so, and then 2 trebles into the next stitch. So we're doing a combination of 3 individuals and then 2 stitches into 1, and we're going to do that all the way to where the red starts, so that's 3 and then a 2. This is a nice way of just gently increasing and keeping the square so that it will be flat. They do have a little bit of a tendency to curl slightly, so just bear that in mind when you're crocheting, that you don't want them either really too floppy or too tightly done. So we're going into the complete stitch here, and then when we get to the red things change ever so slightly. So I've got 2 stitches there, then 1, 2, 3, 2 stitches into the next one, and then it changes ever so slightly that we're now going to work into the back loop only. So you can see where you've got that little love heart effect, and we're going to be working into there. So first one's always a bit tricky where there's a join, so you can see how I've only got 1 loop there on my hook. Same combination, so 3 individual trebles, and then 2 into the 4th stitch. So 3 individuals, 1, 2, 3, and then a 2. So you can see how that's working to do your nice round. I'll just finish that off and then come back and show you the rest in a moment. Okay, so we've got a lovely now green outline to everything here, and you can see how with this one, because we've got into the back loop only, you've got a little ridge at the front with the red, and that makes the toadstool or the mushroom stand out just that little bit more. So that's where you are with this. We're then going to fasten off the lime green yarn, sew that in, make sure everything looks nice and neat, and then we'll come back with the next round. Okay, so here we are with round 7. This is quite a nice easy one to do, so you can join into any stitch of the row below, and we're using the Yarn J, which for me is Fern, and then we're going to do 2 chains. So as you know, I like to do one with the tail of the yarn when we're joining in, and one with the working yarn. This one counts as the first half treble, so that 2 chain is a half treble, and then we're going to do another UK half treble into that same stitch. So that's, you pull it through all 3 loops. Okay, and then we're doing 1 half treble into each of the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we start to work the combination. So it's a nice easy one. We do 2 half trebles into 1 stitch, and then we do 1 half treble into each of the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to keep doing that. So we've got 2 into 1 and then 4 individuals going across. We're going to go all the way around me at the other end and slip stitch that to join it. So we're going to work all the way around and hopefully have 72 stitches at the end, so we'll show you that in just a moment. So here we are at the end, and we've cut the yarn off and we've done a slip stitch to join just here. So I'll just zoom that out slightly so that you can see what we've got, and I think that's looking really sweet now. So I'm going to fasten the ends in at the back, weave them in at the back, and then we'll be back in a moment with the next round. Okay, round 8 is a little bit more complicated. So what I have done here, I'm just going to zoom it out slightly, is we're now going to turn the circle into a square, and so I have put some points where I want my corners to be, because for round 8 we're actually going to start with a corner. So I have done a little bit of counting on around round 8 as to how many stitches and where I'm going to have them. So this is my approximate corner points, and I'm going to start in this one. So it's saying with the mushroom held upright, and imagining your square, you're using yarn A, and you're only working into the back 2 loops of the half trebles. So the beauty of a treble, I'll just show you here, that is the full stitch of the treble. But if you look behind, you can actually go into that point there, and that pushes this front line out. So when we work, we're going to be working into those back loops. So it's the back loop there plus the loop underneath it. Okay, so although I've put my red marker there into the normal top of the stitch, I'm going to take that out now, and I'm going to put my hook in there, which is the back 2 loops. You can see the front one is still here, and then we're back on to the original sage colour, and we're going to do a chain of 4. So that's 1, and just take a second to set your hand up properly so that your tension is good. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my 4 chains, which counts as a double treble. I'm then going to do another double treble into the same place. So that's a double wrap in, grab your yarn, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. So I have the equivalent of 2 double trebles there. Then it's 2 chains and another 2 double oops, I've got the second wrap. 2 double trebles. So I've got my 4 loops there, 1, 2, 3, and again a double loop and in, bring that through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. I'm then going to do a double treble into the back loops again of that next stitch, so you can see how that stitch is at the front. So I've gone into the middle and picked up the one behind as well, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then a treble in again, all into the back loops. So the next 2 stitches into the middle there, and picking up the 2 loops. So that's just 2 standard UK trebles but worked into the back loops, then 2 half trebles, so bringing that back through and then round and through all 3. Need to do 2 of those, and then we are doing 7 double crochets. So that's where you've just got your 2 loops on your hook. So that's 1, straight in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we've got 2 half trebles, so we're working back up towards the corner again. I've got to the point now where I joined the 2 ends of the row there, so there's always a little tricky bit at that point. So 2 half trebles, 2, I'm going to push that out of the way, 2 normal trebles, and a double treble. And as you can see, I'm at my next loop, so I know that I'm on track for working the next corner. I can remove that now. So the corners are, as we said before, 2 double trebles, 2 chain, and 2 more double trebles, all into the same space. And you can see there we've got our corners happening quite nicely. And then you work in the same combination across, so you've got a double treble, 2 trebles, 2 half trebles, 7 double crochet, 2 half trebles, 2 trebles, 1 double treble, and you're back at the next corner. So keep working that combination all the way round until you get back to the beginning, and you'll finish with a final double treble here before you slip stitch to join there. So I'll let you carry on and we'll come back in a moment with the squared off circle. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to take that out slightly so that you can see what we've got finished. So there we go. We're all squared off and we've done that slip stitch to join. Don't fasten off because you will need this colour for the next round. Okay, so I hope you're liking that and that you've ended up with your corners in the right place. See you again in a moment. Okay, so here we are ready for round 9. Nice easy round this one. We start off with a 2 chain, and then we are working 1 half treble into the next stitch, so through all 3 loops at once, and then we're into our first corner, which is 1 half treble, 2 chains and 1 half treble, and that's the same for every corner. And then we go all the way across, working 1 half treble into each stitch to the end, and you need to make sure that when you get to the end of this row you've got 23 stitches, including that one and the one that you're going to work at the other end. So just double check that you've got all the right numbers, because you do need to make sure that you have 23 stitches on each side so that the next row will work. So I'm going to leave you to do those. As I say, when you get to the corners, it's 1 half treble, 2 chains and another 1 half treble into every corner, and we're going to slip stitch when we get back here. So we'll see you again in a few moments at the end of round 9. So here we are, all